Hi, my name is Sergeant Velasquez, and today we are going to go through some Master Resilience training. What I ask from you is that you fully commit yourself, fully apply yourself when you are participating in this course, complete each exercise and activity to the best of your ability. It would be best if you had a piece of paper and pen handy, that way whenever I have these practical exercises or ask you to write something down, you can do so. Also, be receptive. What is resilience? A resilient individual is someone who is willing to take calculated, necessary risk and capitalize on opportunity. Resilience is the ability to grow and thrive in the face of challenges and bounce back from adversity. So if I were to ask you guys what was resilience, I'm sure 99% of you would say to bounce back or be that tennis ball. While you are not incorrect, there's also more to it. You don't want to be that egg that cracks under pressure. You want to practice being resilient so you become better at it every day. Just as any other skill, such as a sport or playing an instrument, these are all skills that take practice to get better at. The same thing goes when it comes to being resilient. The more you practice, the better you become. The first skill we're going to go through is ATC. When I say ATC, I mean activating events, thoughts, and consequences. In ATC, we use the thought bubble icon. We use this icon because it has to do with our thoughts, and we're going to be diving into our thoughts and taking a closer look. Bottom line up front, ATC helps to build self-awareness. Also, it helps identify your heat-of-the-moment thoughts about an activating event and the consequences of those thoughts so you can have greater control over your emotions and reactions. As I said, the ATC helps build self-awareness. Self-awareness is one of the MRT competencies. Through being self-aware, you're going to help identify your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. You're going to identify patterns in thinking and behavior, particularly counterproductive patterns. When I say counterproductive, I mean anything that takes you away from the task at hand, and anything that is productive is going to keep you right there at the task at hand. And then also be open and curious. We have the mirror right here. As say you're standing in front of that mirror, you not only want to be self-aware of your outward appearance, you also want to be self-aware internally as well. So what are two ways in which self-awareness helps you personally and professionally? You can take a minute and pause the video to write down 2 ways that can help you personally and 2 ways it can help you professionally. One example I will give you is, say if you're a parent, you want to be very aware of your emotions and behaviors because you don't want to portray certain ones to your children. And the same thing goes for being in the military. Whether you're lower enlisted, an officer, senior enlisted, you always want to be self-aware of your emotions, your behaviors, just as you would being self-aware about your uniform. So take a few minutes to write those down and then resume the video once you're finished. Now we're going to go through the ATC model. When I say activating events, I mean your trigger. This is a trigger, a challenge, adversity, or a positive event. The trigger can be anything big, it can be anything small. Doesn't have to be something negative to trigger something. 9 times out of 10 you hear the word trigger and you think of something negative as far as like a bad trigger. No, this could be something as small as your alarm clock going off in the morning, or it could be something positive event such as a promotion, the birth of your child, events, things like that. When you have that trigger, that activating event, it's going to produce a thought. Your thought is going to be your interpretation of that activating event. So it's what you say to yourself in the heat of the moment. It's raw, it's uncensored, it's not always pretty, so there might be some swearing in there. It might not be something that's very productive to the task at hand. It's just what you say to yourself in the heat of the moment based off that activating event. For example, your activating event could be your alarm clock going off in the morning. The thought that you would have is what you say right there. It could be, oh, beep, time to get up again, or oh, F this. Things like that. Like I said, it's not always pretty. And in this course, it's okay to use those. Based off your thought, that is then going to drive your consequences. Your consequences are your emotions and your reactions. Keep in mind that when I say your emotions and your reactions, sometimes your reactions can be something that you physically do, such as throw your hands in the air, maybe yell, jump up and down with excitement, or it can be something that your body does on its own, your physiological responses, such as the butterflies in your stomach, or you start sweating. If you're nervous, your palms might sweat. Maybe your ears get red or your face turn red. So, like I said, ATC is going to be your activating event, that trigger, your thoughts, which is your heat of the moment thought, raw and uncensored, and then your consequences, which are your emotions and your reactions. A way to really think about the emotions and reactions in this moment, or is if you were to take a picture of yourself right when you had that thought, what feeling would you be feeling? What emotion would you be feeling? And what reactions would you have? Here's a closer look at how thoughts drive consequences. Say your activating event is you're in a fight with somebody you care about. That's going to produce the thought, she never listens, he or she never listens to what I have to say. So based on that, your thoughts could drive the emotion of frustrated, irritated, and angry. Now, what would your reactions be? Take a moment to write down what your reactions could be if this was your heat of the moment thought and these are the emotions that that thought drove. For example, you might lash out and yell. You might clench your fist. Maybe you just stand there, you don't say anything, but your face starts getting really red and you can feel it. Activating events. So we all have situations that we handle effectively and other situations that we don't handle as effectively as we need to. So identify your effectiveness in a variety of situations. Generate recent, meaningful, and specific examples of situations you did not handle as effectively as you needed to. So on this piece of paper, I want you to write down some recent activating events that you vividly remember, and did you handle it as well as you could, or could you have handled it better? Which situations do you already handle well? And which situations do you need to handle more effectively? Take a few minutes, pause the video, write down which situations do you already handle very well, and what situations do you feel that you need to handle more effectively, and write those down. Emotions are feelings and are usually accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes in the body. Like I said earlier, some of these examples can include anger, happiness, fear, love, etc. When it's coming to ATC, as I said, the point of it is to identify those heat of the moment thoughts and possibly identify counterproductive thought patterns. Some people find that there's a pattern in their thoughts that they can relate to a certain theme. Noticing these patterns in your thoughts can help you understand why you react in a set way across a range of events. For example, being self-aware, like we said in the beginning of the course, it's important to be aware of these emotions and reactions and different thought patterns. If you can just take a moment and slow down your thoughts, then you can produce different emotions and reactions, those consequences. If you have, looking back on the paper where I asked you to write down situations that you feel like you can handle better, do you see that maybe you have a set pattern that you're constantly thinking these counterproductive thoughts, which are constantly driving these counterproductive emotions and reactions? The point of ATC is to kind of slow down and identify you're having those thoughts and changing them to having a more productive thought pattern to drive better emotions and reactions. So ATC is complex. Like we said before, you had that fight with somebody you care about, and then you have the thought, or the activating event, you have the fight with someone you care about, then you have the thought, she's always getting on my case. That thought is going to drive your emotions and your reactions. So based on what you think to yourself, you can either generate another thought because you didn't do anything, or your emotions and reactions can actually generate another activating event. So that fight with somebody you care about, say you turn around and walk out of the house and slam the door. Now that reaction just generated an entire activating event, which could drive another, or can produce another heat of the moment thought. So what is the goal of ATC? To separate the activating event, our thoughts about it, and the consequences. You want to identify patterns in our thinking that make us weaker or decrease performance. What I would like for you guys to do is go through the ATC model, your activating event, come up with an activating event, something that you remember vividly. I want you to write what your heat of the moment thought was in that moment. And then also I want you to, below that, write what your consequences were. What were your emotions and reactions? Could you have had a different thought in the heat of the moment? It's not always going to be something pretty, but in that moment, this is where that skill, that practice of continuously practicing the skill is going to come into play. The more you practice having more productive heat of the moment thoughts, the better you're going to be able to drive those consequences to being more productive outcomes, more productive emotions and reactions. Kind of slow down that thinking. And then you have a quote down here by Aristotle. Anyone can get angry, that is easy. But to get angry with the right person, to the right extent, at the right time, for the right reason, and in the right way is no longer something easy that anyone can do. When it comes to everything going on right now with COVID, keep in mind that it's hard times. There's crazy things going on. But also keep in mind that the way that you are thinking about these activating events is going to continuously drive your emotions and your reactions, those consequences. I want each and every one of you guys to practice every day when something new happens, because obviously we keep having a lot of activating events. Pay attention to those heat of the moment thoughts that you're having and see if you have any patterns in them. Are there any patterns that you're having that you notice that you don't like or you don't want to continue using? Also, like we said, separate the A from the T to the C. The activating events are just the facts. It's the who, the what, the when, and the where. Then your thoughts, your interpretation, what you say to yourself in the heat of the moment. See the consequences, your emotions, reactions. Like I said, detect those patterns. Like I was just telling you, as this is going on every day, detect those patterns that you're seeing that undercut your performance and undermine your mental toughness. If you can detect those patterns, you can start changing your heat of the moment thoughts in the moment to drive better consequences that are going to enhance your performance and enhance that mental toughness. And as I said before, self-awareness is the primary target of ATC. So if you guys have any questions or if the skill is not clear, you are more than welcome to reach out to myself. I'm going to ask that each of those things, the little questions I asked you throughout the video that you wrote down, take a picture and send that to your squad leader or your platoon sergeant, whoever your leader is, to ensure that you did the exercises correctly, and I'll have them send them to myself. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.